most couples come in saying that they have problems in communication. Now, I understand that it looks like a problem in communication because the way couples interact with each other is mostly by talking, although there's a lot of nonverbal talking through one's feet. But where whatever's going on between them manifests is going to be in their communication. So couples typically think if only we could communicate better, our problems would be solved. So that's the number one thing that people come in with. Then there are particular kind of, we could say, content areas that couples come complaining about depending on where they are in their life cycle. Very common one is division of labor. It's not fair. Who's doing what more? Questions around intimacy, whether it's sex or spending time together or connecting. Then there are ways in which their early childhood manifests in their couple's life. But I'd say those are like the key areas.
So it sounded like when you were saying people come in and they think communication's the issue.
Yeah.
The look on your face was, that's not really the issue.
Right.
So what is the issue?
Right. Well, there are many issues, but the thing is when you guide people into how to communicate better and how to really speak and listen to each other and get to the heart of the issue, usually there are real issues that are underlying the issues of communication. And often people make communication difficult because it's hard for them to touch the real issues. So they defensively create problems in communication. So when you're asking what are the real issues, at least from my perspective, I think if I had to summarize it in the most succinct way, I would say the real issue that couples face is that they're building a relationship or living with another person who's different from them. And that is really hard. It's very exciting. It's a source of growth. It's a source of desire. It's a source of lots of good things, but it's also incredibly difficult and annoying. Whether it's like the small habits of another person or the deepest core of who they are and their values and their politics, there are many ways in which the otherness of your partner infringes on you and puts you in all sorts of difficult positions.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking back to it. I remember when my wife and I, when we were just dating and when we lived together for a brief amount of time, that was when I was like, oh, I think we could be good together, because it felt easy to go to work, be in the same space. We kind of had a good distribution of household responsibilities. We felt like we had a flow. It's really interesting to me because when I look earlier in my dating life and when I speak to so many people myself, sometimes you can be such good partners when you're boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever your makeup may be, but then when you move in together, you're not as good roommates.
Yeah.
And it feels like that transition is where so much of this is discovered.
Yes, that is probably the first round in which things are discovered, like the living together. And you can think of it as compatibility. Some people just have similar habits, or, they like the dishwasher loaded a particular way similarly, and it makes it easy. But if you go kind of deeper under, I think part of it is how do you respond to otherness? How do you respond to someone who's different from you in the smallest way and in the biggest way? And for some of us, differentness poses a lot of issues, a lot of problems. It feels intrusive. It makes you question your own beliefs. You immediately get into questioning who's right, who's wrong, who's top, who's bottom. Otherness can trigger a lot of stuff, whatever the otherness is, and for some people it's more easygoing. It's easier to just accept the fact that people have different habits. Part of it is compatibility, and part of it is are you ready to tolerate another person and to adjust to another person and change in response to letting someone else into your life?
I'm really appreciating the language with which you're explaining this, because I genuinely don't believe I've heard it that simply before. and that well. And I say that because I think we often make it about, do we have compatibility? Do we have chemistry? Do we have connection? And really, you're so right that it's feeling othered or otherness that really causes all of our conflict. And I want to apologize. We never introduced Nico.
I know.
I think Nico's making me aware now. Nico's saying, like, wait, you left me out.
What about me?
This beautiful being that we have roaming around us at all times is Nico, who we're very grateful is here and is even more beautiful in person. When Radhi and I first started living together, we found that we had a very small example. We had very different routines in how we liked to host and entertain. So if we had friends over, we both want to have dinner with them. But then after having dinner, I want to hang out on the couch, I want to talk to them, I want to relax, I want to spend time with them. Radhi wants to get into the kitchen and clean while everyone's there,
right,
and then go to hanging.
Yeah.
And I want to hang out with everyone, and then I want to go and clean when everyone's left.
Totally get it.
And mine comes from how I was raised, so that's what we did in my house. And hers comes from how she was raised.
Right.
Now, I don't think there's a better or worse. I think it's a preference. But what I found was that when I would hang out straight after eating and I wouldn't clean up, there were times when Radhi would see that as me not valuing her.
Right,
or
shirking responsibility.
Exactly, shirking responsibility, or you expect me to do everything.
Yeah.
And that's not how I felt,
right,
but that's how it came across.
Right.
That's why what you're saying resonates with me so strongly, because the otherness of activity also leads to the otherness of emotion. And all of a sudden now, you're filling in the gaps of that space of being othered. So to her, it became, I'm disrespected, I'm not valued, you're shirking responsibility, you're lazy, whatever it may have been.
Exactly.
And for me, it became, well, I'm just trying to hang out. What's wrong with you? Why can't you just have fun? You know, why do you have to be so fixated on cleaning up? Like, why are you so, whatever it may be, right? So now,
perfect.
Yeah.
Can I
of course
borrow this from my book?
Yeah, please.
Because this is like a perfect example. And just the way you said it also, that's exactly it. That there's a space of difference and you don't understand why you're different, and you immediately start building theories that are basically meant to answer the question, how am I right and what's wrong with you? Right? Because difference, we can't just, it's very hard for us to just let difference sit there and just say, we're just different. And how are we going to move with this difference? What's the best way to move with it? We immediately start like involving, I don't know what it is. It's like our ego or something about who we are that's at question with difference. And that's where a lot of the trouble starts coming in. Like you build theories, like she's building a theory that you're like shirking responsibility, or, oh, here's another guy just wanting the woman in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, here's a wife that doesn't want to have fun. She's just going to be like nagging me to do this, that, and the other. I mean, we know the theories. It's very easy to kind of inject theories in there. But part of what happens in couples work, and you don't have to do it through therapy, but part of what happens is you start tracking the automatic way that you assign all these scripts to your partner to avoid just dealing with the discomfort of otherness. I think of it sometimes like a thorn that gets stuck in you that disrupts your way of thinking about things. Like suddenly there's another way of doing things and you're like, wait a minute, do I have to think about how I'm doing things at all? Do I have to question what I'm doing, and how am I going to respond to that provocation?
And what's the difference between, like, I feel like for a lot of people, they maybe in the beginning they'll just fold and do what their partner wants because it's easier.
Right.
And then maybe many years later they'll be like, I changed for you, I did that for you, I did all these things for you, but you didn't value me, and you haven't changed, or whatever it may be.
Totally.
There's a lot of different versions of that. That's one version. What's the right balance between looking for the right solution and looking for, I'm not a fan of the word compromise. What are your thoughts on the word compromise?
Could you say a little bit more?
Sure.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't love, so for example, for me, I think compromise is us both saying, well, okay, well, I'll do a little bit of this for you if you do a little bit of this for me. Whereas to me, it's like, well, can we work together to figure out what makes the most sense and what is actually the most practical, best, effective solution where everyone's happier? And I don't think that means like, for example, with this situation, we have now believed that it is nicer to host as long as Radhi has the peace of mind that everything will be clean that evening.
Yeah.
We've come to a conclusion, which I don't think is a compromise for either of us.
Right.
It's a feeling that we both found a solution together.
Yeah.
And compromise to me makes me feel like I gave up something or I lost out on something or she did.
Yeah.
And I don't want her to give up something for me that's important. If she said to me, Jay, it is so important to me that we clean up right away, I would value that and I would do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it because I feel forced to or I have to.
Yeah.
That's my, or I have to.
Yeah.
That's my issue with it.
I'm thinking about how I work it out with couples when, first of all, couples need to abandon the idea that one of them is completely right and one of them is wrong, right? You want to approach the difference with the idea that you're equal partners, that you each have a valid point of view, even if it's different. And that's actually not an easy thing to get to.
It's so hard.
So hard, right?
I see that being the biggest challenge for couples.
Yes. And it would be interesting to think about, like, why is it so hard for us? But it's very hard. But once you approach a difference in terms of it just simply being two equal partners struggling with difference, then you want to create a space. And I agree with you that to simply compromise is sometimes just a quick fix. And it's like a Band-Aid that underneath it can breed resentments. And you can eventually somehow go back to the idea that it's not fair, I compromise more than you, but to do what you're suggesting doing, which is to really put both minds to it and arrive at a conclusion together, is actually really hard. You have to overcome both a lot of your own convictions, selfish needs, and really work for the good of the relationship, of the total good. That's why I often say that couples form between them like a political system. It's like the first political system of how do you resolve difference? Are you going to be like autocratic or democratic in terms of how you resolve a difference?
Oh, interesting. I like that.
Sometimes I go back to reminding people of how when you have two kids playing and wanting to play with the same toy, like how do you coach kids on what to do in that case? Do you take turns? Do you give both kids the same toy? Do you just remove the kids from the situation and say, oh, they can't play well together? Do you leave one kid crying, having to compromise in a way that was just really depriving for them and they were not ready for? All this to say that this solution that you're suggesting, which is to really put your minds together and figure out a solution that is good for everyone, is hard. I do think it's the best one, but I think it requires a certain kind of honesty and willing to give up a certain kind of investment, selfish investment in the thing that you believe in. You have to like relax your convictions.
It makes so much sense to me because I feel like most issues are this.
Yeah.
And most people are not solving this.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
we're lost trying to solve some other puzzle.
Yeah.
And I couldn't agree with you more that whether I'm talking to a family member, a friend, a coaching client, or I'm watching something on TV or hearing from someone about something, this is the problem.
Yep.
And this is the root of it, that we don't want to accept that someone else may be right and we may be wrong.
Yeah.
That someone else may have a better idea than ours.
Yeah.
And ours may be worse. And that the way their parents did things might actually supersede the way our parents did things.
Yeah.
And we don't like that.
Yeah.
Because it makes us feel almost disloyal to our own upbringing.
Yeah.
There's like a feeling of I'm betraying what my parents did. I'm betraying tradition.
Yep.
There's an ego conflict there of, but this is my identity. This is who I am.
Yes.
And by telling me there's another way, a better way,
Yeah.
you're almost making me feel like my identity is becoming more and more insignificant day by day.
And I'm losing something that grounds me. What's going to happen to me if I don't have this identity?
Exactly.
And the loyalty can be to parents. It can be to a particular group that you're associated with. It could be to your religion. And it can be to an ideology or a belief system that you feel like your self kind of depends on. No one wants to be in a relationship where their partner is just waiting for them to change for the relationship to really start. We're self-centered. We've got, like, the our perceptive field, and we don't really see the other. And working through that and getting to a more humble place where you understand that you've been more selfish and then in certain ways you are exploiting your partner is an important piece of the work. There's a certain level of acceptance that has to happen. Of course, we want to change and get better and grow with each other, but you can't really be in a conditional relationship. That's not going to work.